Love can bring the most meaningful and beautiful things in life, but it can also be the cause of the most terrible and horrible things. Downtown Tulsa, Den a young woman is struggling with a man in her house. The arguments and shouting are loud enough for the neighbors to hear. But no one wants to intervene in her personal life. Everyone chooses to remain silent, shutting the doors of their own homes. Then something dreadful happens. A gunshot rings out, ending all the noise that filled the air just moments before. In shock and fear, a witness calls the police to report a shooting at the house next door. Someone just fired a gun here, at the house next door. We're not sure what happened. The girl lives alone and was arguing with some man. Please come quickly. I'm worried something terrible has happened. The police immediately spring into action, and in less than 10 minutes, a police car and an ambulance arrive at the scene. Neighbors gather outside the house, worried and uneasy, watching inside. To secure the scene, crime scene tape is put up, and witnesses are asked to move outside to give their statements. The medical team rushes out of the ambulance and into the house, but it is too late. The young woman has been confirmed dead, having died just minutes earlier. She was shot in the chest by the perpetrator close to the heart, at close range with a force that shattered her heart, causing fatal bleeding. Her death was quick and shockingly sudden. Her face is still frozen in horror, her eyes wide open, one hand clutching her chest. Only one bullet casing is found at the scene. The perpetrator fired only once to end her life. From what they find in the house, they identify the woman as Jessica Lee, 24, a cashier at a convenience store. She lived alone in this rented apartment and had no close family or relatives. Both her parents had passed away, and she had no siblings. She was found dead in the living room near the front door, suggesting she may have argued with the perpetrator before the terrible incident. A review of the scene shows no disturbances in other rooms or anywhere else in the living room, except where her body was found. The front door was wide open, but showed no signs of forced entry or tampering, and neither did the windows or other entry points. This implies that the perpetrator entered when the door was open, or Jessica opened it for them. This case definitely involves someone who knew the victim closely, possibly intimately. She showed no sign of anticipating this outcome until the moment the gun was fired. Outside the scene, there are traces of a footprint in the grass, a fairly large sneaker print, likely from a man. The police begin gathering witness statements from those who were nearby. We don't really pay much attention to other people's houses. I wasn't concerned until I heard the gunshot from that house. Before that, there were some loud arguments between her and a man, apparently about a relationship. After the shot, I went out to the gate and looked toward the house. The door was still open until the police arrived. A woman living across from Jessica's house added more useful information. I saw a shadow, maybe a tall man. I couldn't see his face. He was wearing dark clothes, a mask, and a hood. He left the house after the gunshot, walked out, then quickly ran toward the main road. It was about half an hour ago, I think. From the witness statements, it seems Jessica was in a complicated relationship with a man, likely leading to a murder fueled by uncontrolled emotions. The next step is to investigate the relationships around the victim. As Jessica had no family and lived alone, gathering information about her connections is challenging. The police list possible leads for their investigation. Her phone contacts, call logs, messages, social media, co-workers, and even credit card transactions or location history on her phone all need to be checked. Jessica's phone is quickly found in her pocket, which soon receives a message from someone listed as Luis in her contacts. The police read the recent messages from Luis. It seems they were in a relationship. Luis was sending jealous and accusatory messages, even threats to the victim. This presents a clear motive the police can't ignore. He's the primary suspect. Naturally, he might seem uninvolved since he's still texting her, not knowing she's dead. But suppose he's the killer who left the scene unnoticed. Sending messages after her death could just be a trick to mislead the police. Neighbors heard the gunshot, and the perpetrator would know that, possibly exploiting it. However, based on just this reasoning, they cannot conclude anything. So the police can only put him on the suspect list and go to his house for questioning as an acquaintance of the victim. From Luis's phone number, they find his information in the resident management system. He's just an ordinary guy with no record of violence or any other crimes, a convenience store employee working in the same chain as Jessica. It seems he was her superior. We might get more information from her co-workers. Shortly afterward, the police visit Luis. Detectives John and Lisa ring his doorbell for a long time. There is clearly someone inside, as they can hear the TV on, and the door is locked from the inside with no sign of anyone trying to escape. To prepare in case Luis is the perpetrator and tries to flee. Detective John had already arranged for a few teammates to stand guard around the house. Finally, Luis opens the door, visibly drunk, unsteady on his feet, with a strong smell of alcohol in the air. Empty bottles of beer and liquor are scattered across the floor. He seems completely surprised by the police presence. "What's going on? Did I disturb the neighbors?" "No, we're here because of Jessica Lee's death." "What did you just say?" Luis nearly collapses, sinking to the floor when John tells him about Jessica's murder. He says he had no idea what had happened and was still arguing with her over her sudden breakup with him, as they disagreed on some lifestyle issues. "I love Jessica deeply. We had our arguments and were taking a break, but I still hoped she'd reconsider and come back to me. I'm willing to forgive everything. But the messages you sent her last night were threatening. I only said those things to get her back. I didn't actually hurt Jessica." When asked about an alibi, Luis claims he was home all night and did not leave, but he lives alone, so there is no one to verify his statement. And there are no security cameras in the neighborhood to prove he was indeed at home at that time. Since there is no direct evidence, the police cannot arrest or conclude that he is the killer. John notices his shoes at the door, some office shoes and sneakers of a similar size to the footprints at the scene. However, none of the soles match the print pattern from the crime scene. More clues are needed to find a genuine connection to the case. John and his partner, Lisa, continue investigating Jessica's workplace for any suspicious relationships around the victim. Jessica was not friendly with her co-workers, so they mostly had negative things to say about her. However, due to the gossip, her personal life was often scrutinized. Jessica was very attractive, so she thought she was better than the rest of us and would often flirt with the guys. She was the boss's girlfriend, so we couldn't do anything about it. The boss, they mentioned, was confirmed to be Luis. But due to Jessica's life being closely watched, these co-workers provided the police with another key piece of information. There was a man recently involved with her while she was still dating the boss. That's why they fought. "Tell me about this man." The other man, reportedly romantically involved with Jessica, was known as Victor. According to the store employees, Luis caught Jessica and Victor together about a week ago. Victor had a personal feud with Luis in the past. Jessica had boasted about Victor, saying he was wealthy and more desirable than Luis. But the police needed more information to locate him. He stopped coming to the store after their argument when Luis found out about their relationship. Following this lead, the police checked Jessica's phone again and find Victor's number listed without a name, with calls exchanged frequently over a week ago. After further investigation, they find his name and address. John and Lisa go to find the second suspect in the case. Unlike Luis, Victor is full of energy and opens the door quickly, with a woman inside his house. He seems genuinely surprised about Jessica's death, but not overly concerned. "I was just flirting with her to mess with Luis. He went totally crazy over it." Victor says he ended things with Jessica right after Luis discovered their relationship. Jessica had broken up with Luis to be with him, but to him, she was just a way to get back at an enemy. When asked for an alibi during the time of the murder, he shows a receipt for a nearby supermarket. Checking the store's security cameras should confirm his innocence. Lisa goes to the supermarket named on the receipt and requests to see the footage from that day. Soon, Victor's statement is verified. He was indeed shopping at the supermarket with his girlfriend when the murder happened. At this point, suspicion shifts back entirely to Luis. To confirm Luis's account, John and Lisa meet with their team to decide on a plan. The police will collect all surveillance footage in the area, hoping to capture any angles near Luis's house and review the route from Jessica's house to trace the killer's path and verify the suspect's alibi. Witnesses around the crime scene recall the argument lasting around half an hour before the gunshot, with the perpetrator leaving Jessica's house around 9:55 to 10 p.m. Detective John returns to Luis's neighborhood and notices a car in the driveway across from Luis's house, parked with the front facing his home. Immediately, he realizes this could be important evidence. John approaches the car's owner, a neighbor, for assistance. "Hello, we're dealing with an issue that could use your help. Do you park your car here every day after 6 p.m.?" "Yes, every day. What about 2 nights ago?" "It was the same as usual. I park there every evening after work and almost never go out afterward." Thanks to the police's persistent search, the car's camera footage is available from the night of the crime. John and Lisa focus intently on the video footage, and their suspicions are confirmed. Luis had left his house around 8:40 p.m. and did not return until 10:20 p.m., wearing a dark hoodie with the hood up, matching the suspect's image and the timeline of the killer leaving the scene. Immediately, an arrest warrant is issued. The police quickly devise a tactical plan to capture the perpetrator as soon as possible. Detectives John, Lisa, and the rest of their team arrive at Luis's house shortly after. They ring the doorbell, but there is no response. Suspecting the suspect has fled, they break down the door. The room is as messy as the day before, but Luis is gone. His personal belongings are neatly packed and completely removed. No one's inside. The suspect has escaped. The ashtray was still warm, indicating that he had just left. The police immediately began tracking his calls and monitoring his financial accounts, while expanding their search in the surrounding area. His motorcycle was gone, suggesting he might be traveling on it. As soon as the order to check his credit card transactions took effect, the police quickly found a lead on Luis. He had withdrawn a large sum of money at a restaurant 5 kilometers west of his house. Local police were immediately dispatched to the reported location. The sight of police officers entering through the front door startled Luis. Panicking, he abandoned the meal he had just ordered and ran straight for the back exit. He crashed into bystanders along the way, catching the police's attention. The suspect is fleeing. Everyone converge at the main and back entrances of the restaurant. Luis, clutching his backpack, dashed out the door only to find himself surrounded by police. He froze for a moment, shocked by the guns pointed at him, and slowly dropped his backpack. He was restrained and taken back to the station, where he was prepared for questioning in the interrogation room. Luis sat, his head bowed, across from the 2 detectives. When asked again about Jessica's death and presented with the evidence, he hung his head in fear and despair, finally confessing to his crime. In a trembling voice, he began to recount his actions. "I was overcome with jealousy. I loved her and needed her, but she betrayed me for a worthless guy like Victor. I tried to hold on to her, but she chose to dump me to please that jerk. In a moment of rage, I acted." Luis then revealed where he had hidden the murder weapon and the blood-stained clothes from the crime. The case closed with a sobering lesson about love turned toxic, leading to the tragic death of a young woman and the imprisonment of a man driven by a hopeless desire for love. As the world advances and life offers more choices, each decision can take us down a different path. So, in love, be rational and clear-headed. When love is nurtured with kindness, it brings beauty into our lives. Don't let love become a dead end in your life.